Hey guys, we are going to continue on in our Corona conversations. This time I'm joined by David Root. Most of you know him as the former student ministries director, really like the pinnacle of student ministries at Linworth. He is currently a counselor in the mental health care world. He's a genius. Browns fan, Pepsi fan. I think he likes chocolate more than vanilla. Is that true?
No,
Vanilla more than chocolate?
absolutely.
Absolutely. So we're here with David. We're just going to talk a little bit about mental health during this time of coronavirus, as well as just some things he's been up to, some, check in on his family and see how everything's going. So before we get into all the mental health stuff and, how to deal with all that during coronavirus, how you doing, David? What's new in your world?
Life's good. It's with little kids, the days are pretty much the same.
That's
It's
true.
they've been the same for a long time since it's winter. It's not really like summer or spring yet. They're used to getting up, maybe watching a show and playing and then taking a nap and then playing and then going to bed. I mean, it's kind of the same habit every day. So it's not all that different. They don't really notice anything really different with the whole quarantine pandemic virus stuff, but they're good. The boys are almost 2 and Emma's 4. So yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. Have you guys discovered any new television shows that your kids love?
Uh Anything new? I'm not sure. They're in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. That's a big
Very
one.
cool. It's a
Uh
throwback.
yeah, I've been Daniel Tiger. So
Classic.
yeah. Those are the big ones. And then I guess Puppy Dog Pals. That's kind of a newer Disney Junior show. So
Has your daughter discovered? Do you guys have Disney Plus?
yeah.
Has your daughter discovered zombies yet?
No.
It is like so Harper found it. She has her iPad, and so she was on it, and she discovered it by herself, and she showed it to me one day, and we watched it. And the first like 75% of it is like it's not scary. Like they just wear like gray makeup and have like green hair for zombies. It's
Mhm.
kind of like High School Musical. So it's like
Okay,
like
sure.
tons of songs and stuff like that. There's like a cheerleader girl that's like a little bit different, and a zombie guy, and they like fall in love or whatever.
Yeah.
But the end of it is like kind of scary. So we watched a couple weeks ago. We watched the end of it for the first time, and that night Harper had nightmares. So if you watch it, I highly recommend you watch just the first like 75%. The songs are pretty catchy. We walk around singing the songs around our house a lot.
Mhm.
They're pretty
Nice.
catchy. Um, so what? How has so here's a question: How has coronavirus affected your day to day life?
Well, I'm a counselor, so I'm used to seeing people in my office all day long. But this is the third week here where I've been at home. So I'm seeing my clients just like right now. I'm in the spare bedroom at my house. Got my headphones in. Um, and so I do my counseling now over the computer, just like this, using a special kind of software that's HIPAA compliant, so it can be
Nice.
safe and all that stuff. And the law requires that. But and I'm seeing most people in their houses, which has been pretty cool. It's a different dynamic. It's a little I think it's a little harder. I think it's not quite as good as doing it in the office, but I know a lot of people still need help and support, and so I'm glad that I can still offer that and not just be shut down for a month or so.
Yeah.
So
Do any of them have as cool backgrounds as this?
no, but there are some fun stuff. The one cool thing is like with some of the younger kids that I see, they like to show off like, hey, this is what I built with Legos. See, or hey, this
Yeah.
is something that I painted here. See,
These are
like,
my
and they
glasses.
exactly, they don't have that stuff in the office with them, and
That's
so
true.
that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So speaking of the kids that you see, obviously you can't go into great detail about,
Mhm.
their personal lives or whatever, but speaking in general terms, have you seen an uptick during quarantine, coronavirus, all this stuff of like anxiety and depression or, just kids being stressed out? Have you seen any uptick in those kinds of things?
It's really interesting, and this isn't true in all cases, but in most cases, I've actually been really surprised because the people that I've talked to that have anxiety disorders, where one of the main things we're talking about is in therapy is their anxiety, they're doing fine. They're not worried at all. But the people that I see that don't deal with anxiety, that's never really been a problem. They're the ones that are kind of freaking out. I don't really know why that's the case, but in most cases, that's what I've seen. Most of the people that I see that have anxiety, and I've expected their anxiety to be a lot higher, it's really not.
Hmm.
I think maybe they're used to coping with things. They're used to dealing with
It could be.
unknown situations. And, one thing we talk about a lot in therapy is coping skills. And
Yeah.
so, maybe they're just, yeah, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and I can't really control it. I'm doing my best. I'm staying home, washing my hands and, all that stuff. And, if I can't control it, why worry about it? So that's something I talk a lot about in therapy too, is, if you can't control something, it's not really worth a lot of your worry.
Yeah, that's good. Um, what would you say across all your clients, whether they struggle with anxiety disorders or not, your high school age clients or
Mhm.
younger, middle school, high school, what
Mhm.
would you say is like the number one emotion that they feel during this time?
It's funny because I tell kids this isn't a real emotion, and I won't. I like when I ask them how they feel and they tell me this, I usually say no, you got to tell me something else. But I honestly I would say boredom.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually when someone says, how do you feel? Bored? Like, that's not a feeling. You got to do better than that.
yeah,
But a lot of them get, and with bored comes, maybe restless, frustrated. But,
yeah,
especially now that, this is the third week here of everybody having school at home. And we're probably going to be cooped up here at home for the whole month of April, at least. It's when you're not, you're not even halfway through it yet. And now school works a little bit harder, and now maybe the grades count a little more than they did before, and spring break is over, and you can't see your friends. You can't, your sports season's been canceled, or if you're into sports, you can't really even go work out. You're not able to do your, the band you play in, or your dance class, or whatever it is that you do. Your activities are just done.
yeah,
And I think people are getting bored. I think families, for the most part, are doing a really good job. I'm telling all the families that I see, do one thing together a day.
yeah,
Whether it's y'all cook dinner together, or you watch a movie together, you watch Jeopardy together, you play a game, you take a walk, you put work on a puzzle. Like, it doesn't have to be, like something where everybody talks and contributes, but something where you're all together doing the same thing at the same time with no screens. That, every day doing something like that is good for the family, and most families are already doing that even when I suggest it, so that's cool.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think, what in talking to students that I'm close with, the number one emotion they have is just frustrated. They're frustrated, like
Yeah.
you said, their sports season are canceled. They can't go to school. They can't see their friends. Things are starting to get a little harder. Some kids are having troubles figuring out like what assignments are due at what time because they're not used
Yep.
to the online format. I think kids are just frustrated during this time. I
Yep.
know for me, at first I was like, oh, this is fine. Like I'm gonna, we're gonna adapt. Everything's gonna be okay. We're still gonna be able to get to the grocery store, the gas station. We're still gonna be able to go to the hospital, stuff and so on and so forth. And
Hmm.
now I'm starting to feel like, is this ever gonna end? And not because like it's the end of the world,
Hmm.
but like I am so bored. I'm so
Yeah.
frustrated. I am such an extrovert, and this
Hmm.
is like extrovert, like uncharted territory.
Hmm.
But how are you dealing with it personally? Like, what was your
Sure.
sort of like emotional arc from the beginning when they started talking about coronavirus and started, all the rumors were flying about locking us down, or Mike DeWine was like, okay, business as usual, but you just can't meet in 250, gatherings of 250 to where we are now. I mean, what is
Hmm.
your sort of emotional response been?
Well, I definitely have some measure of concern. I mean, I have little kids. I have parents that are not young, and so, I definitely worry about, one of them getting really sick,
Yeah,
even though most people recover, and do fine and all that, but, you still just don't want anybody to, to get sick or get really, really sick or even die. I mean, that's, something that you don't want to deal with. So that's definitely, as a parent to my kids and as a child to my parents, I definitely worry about that at some level. Um, you know, I'm still really not. all that concerned because, you know, I think we're really fortunate in Ohio with our governor and everything else. I think we're doing a really good job in terms of just trying to mitigate the virus as much as possible so it's not a huge crisis. So I'm grateful. You know, nobody likes being stuck at home, but I'm glad that we're doing the things that we're doing. But in terms of like adapting personally, this is kind of something that I've been thinking about with my clients. A lot of them, I ask them, "Hey, have you ever had a broken leg or a broken arm, like a cast, or were you on crutches?" And you know, because you know, life changes like that. And I've never had a cast or crutches, but 7 years ago, I caught mononucleosis or mono, and at the same time, I had strep throat, and it was
not good.
It was terrible. Like I thought I was going to die. It was like 2 weeks of like I was so tired, but I couldn't really sleep. I was sick. My throat hurt. I couldn't eat. I lost 20 pounds, and you know, it was so exhausting and so terrible. And when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, oh, my life is terrible. How's it ever going to be the same? Like the thing I wanted more, I wanted canes. Like I wanted canes so bad, but I couldn't eat anything. And I was just like, I just want canes. Like I'm never going to eat canes again.
Just sobbing in your bedroom.
Pretty
Watching
pretty
Netflix
much.
for the 17th hour in a row, just sobbing about Canes.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, but the thing is, you know, I got better, and then
Yeah.
within a week afterwards, life was back to normal, and it didn't even feel like I was even sick. Like I couldn't in other words, like the time that I spent sick seemed like such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Even though it was 2 weeks, and even though like when I was in the middle of it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like my life is never going to be the same. It sucks. Kind of like if you're on crutches and you have to hobble around, like, oh, people have to open a door for me, and I need help like doing everything, and like this is so miserable. How is my life ever going to be the same? But you know, for most injuries, you know, you do your rehab and then you're fine, you know, and it's like you go back to walking and running just like you always did, and you forget what it was like to hobble around, you know, and thinking that your life is over because you can't walk, you know. So I'm kind of using that analogy right now and thinking about this. I mean, right now, you know, we're in the middle of it, you know, and you know, we're kind of starting up the second lap of this race, and who knows how many laps we have to run. But when it's over and life goes back to normal, you know, we're going to look back on this and laugh like, hey, you remember that time that we were all stuck at home? Hey, you remember when like we couldn't do anything? Remember when gas was like $1.50 because no one was buying it? You know, and so and we're all going to be fine. You know, we are all like it just in terms of like life in general. Like we're going to be fine. Like I really feel bad for businesses that are closing, for people that are out of work, and I know there's a lot of financial strain, and that could put a pinch on things and on families for a long time. I'm not unsympathetic to that, but just in terms of our normalcy, like we're going to get back to that. People that are out of work are going to get jobs again, you know, and there are things that are lost that we're not going to be able to like fully redeem. Like I really feel bad for athletes that are seniors in particular. You know, I mean, it's always sad to lose a season, but you know, if you're a senior, you've lost your senior season. And you know, if you're a senior, you know how important that is. Heck, all seniors right now. You know, I mean, the last month of my senior year was one of the best months of my life. You know, and knowing that you can't really experience that. I mean, that you can't redeem that.
Yeah.
But you know, and this is another reason why it's, you know, why our faith and trust should be in the Lord. You know, because you know, things on earth, they perish. You know, what did Jesus say in Matthew 6? You know, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, you know, where moth and rust do not destroy, because things on earth, you know, they break down, they burn, they decay. They're inherently unreliable, and they won't last.
Yeah.
You know, and that even applies, you know, to our own health and bodies over time, you know, but
that's good.
You know, the things, you know, things on earth, they're, you know, say a word and it's gone. You know, it really is.
True.
And the stuff that's most important, you know, our faith, our families, each other, you know, that's the stuff that endures and the stuff that we really need to be investing in. And I'm really grateful for the people that are doing that, especially families.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think there's definitely been a lot of questions surrounding, where is, hold on a second. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of middle schoolers, and they all just sort of text at once. So
Silly
how
middle
do
schoolers.
I don't know if I can shut that up. Whatever. Um, excuse me. I don't have corona. I just choked. Um, so we've definitely seen a lot of questions and just in the media and just different things of people like talking about, where is God in all of this and sort of the response in any sort of crisis where, things are shaken, lives are taken and just different things are going on. How have you seen, how have you seen God in the midst of coronavirus?
You know, sometimes it's easy to see God and sometimes it's hard to see God. And I think for people during this season, it could be easy to see God because there's really not much else to do, or it can be hard to see God. But you know, one thing that is absolutely unshakable in me, as part of my faith, is that God is sovereign and
Yeah.
God is in control. And I am not always going to like what happens in life. You know,
Yeah.
there are, whether it's, some kind of bad financial situation. I mean, one day my parents will pass away, and
Certainly.
and that's, and I'm not looking forward to that. It's going to be terrible, but I believe in the sovereignty of God, and I believe that He holds the world in His hands, and I believe that He cares, for those who love Him. And does that mean that good things are always going to happen to me? No. Life is not free of pain. God does not promise that.
Yeah.
Um, and in fact, God kind of is more obvious, more
Yeah.
blunt about saying quite the opposite. That there's actually a lot of pain in life. But God promises to walk with us through it. And I know that because God is sovereign, He's in control, and I can trust that.
Yeah.
And I also know that nothing can separate me from God's love. That's Romans 8.
Right.
And that no matter what happens, like, God is not going to run away. God is not going to just abandon us here. Like, God is one immovable, unshakable force, person, however you want to look at it, that the virus can't take. The virus can't take my faith. The virus
Good.
the virus might close churches, but it won't close God.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important reminder. It's, especially for you teens. Just in thinking about your own faith and your own future. I mean, when you're a teen, you're invincible. You think that life is always going to be good. It's going to be great. There's never going to be anything wrong. I can do whatever I want, and it'll go just the way that I think it will, and everything will be awesome. But real life is not always like that. I mean, there will be times that are hard and that are painful, and God promises to be with us through it. And I find that incredibly reassuring, and I find that just to be a demonstration of God's incredible love. That He wants to draw even nearer to us in this space.
Yeah.
And He doesn't. He's not. God is not withdrawing. God is advancing. And so I think that's something that I've just been clinging on to personally, and I'm leaning into that. Like, I can trust God no matter what happens in this whole situation.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. Um, I think it's difficult because we've never seen anything like this. I'm 31, so I've lived through, 9/11. That was, I think that was probably the first like worldwide event that I remember that really like changed everything. Um, I think, we lived through SARS, we've lived through swine flu, Ebola
Mm-hmm.
just a couple years ago. It's crazy because coronavirus feels like, this is not the first coronavirus that we've had, right? This, I think coronavirus doesn't just refer to a virus that we've
Mm-hmm.
gotten from animals. We've seen it, throughout different times, but this
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's on such a broader scale. Things are
Yeah.
being shut down, countries are being shut down, elections are being stopped, sports teams are being shut down, so on and so forth. So with all of that, there's so many questions of everything's going to get back to normal. Is it going to be a new normal? What's it going to look like? And I love the way that you talked about God's sovereignty as not, God is not retreating, but God is advancing. God is not abandoning us here on this little spinning blue and green rock. He's with us. He's for us. And I think a lot of times we spend this time fighting against God, trying to control what we can control, and think that God is fighting against us, or God is doing this to us to try to bring us closer to him or whatever. But the reality is exactly like what you said that was so good, is that God is still fighting for us, and he's not forgotten about us. So I really appreciate that. And the hope and prayer is that, that statement right there resonates with the high school kids. And I think it's awesome. And I really appreciate that word. One last question I have for you is, during this time, obviously, we're relying on faith. We're doing Bible studies, and we're doing Zoom chats, for discipleship groups, and we're producing our messages and so on and so forth. As usual, obviously, it's a little different than being in person. But, just practically, for those that are struggling with anxiety or depression or even boredom or mourning the loss of their seasons, just practically, what are some things, some advice that you have for kids that are going through this time that they can do or think about from the mental health standpoint?
First of all, I'd say lean into your parents. You're stuck at home with them, and this is a really good time for you to be reminded as a teenager that you still need your parents, and your parents are still your advocates, and they're there for you 100%. And they want to listen to you. They want to know about your life. They want to to support you and do things that that you want them to do. And I think that making sure that you're not just cutting off your parents altogether from your life is an important first step. You don't have to share, every single thing about yourself with them, but just relate to them. They're human beings just like you. They have feelings about this. They've got anxieties and things they're worried about with all this too. And, that's relatable. Maybe try to learn something from one of them. Maybe, ask your dad how to fix something on a car, or ask your mom how to make certain kinds of foods, not to be like strict genderist,
Yeah, for sure.
But, but just, like those kinds of things, it's a great opportunity to learn stuff and to, and to relate to them a little more, because you probably won't have another season like this in your life, where you get all this time with them, and parents who might watch this, make sure you treasure this time with your kids, because you probably won't get this again. So that's one thing. Two, make sure you stay connected. Make sure you're doing something to stay connected to your friends, whether that's texting them, Zoom chats, FaceTime, phone calls, video games over headset, something that you can like stay connected to the people that are important in your life, because we all need friends. And that's a really cool thing. Make sure you're getting enough rest. Don't stay up all night. Have some kind of schedule to your day. Know when you're going to do your homework. Know when you're going to have free time. Know when you're going to do stuff with your family. That'll just help kind of have a general idea of what to expect each day. And make sure you can get outside. Even if that just means just like chilling on your back deck a little bit, or taking a walk in the neighborhood. Allegedly spring is supposed to be here. I don't know if it's really going to happen. Spring is kind of a myth every year until like May. So, but that's another thing too. And, making sure you're connecting with God too, pray, read the word, there's a lot of ways to creatively engage right now, find some online videos or podcasts, or, things that you can watch this video and others on the channel. That's all good stuff to do too. So, yeah.
Are you, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but are you trying to learn any new skills during this time?
Not really.
If only you had time, right?
The only new skill that might be learned is we might try to potty train our sons, but that's
very good.
That's about it.
That might take up all your time, and then some.
Yeah, I've got some stuff I need to build, like some shelves in a storage room, but I can't do it by myself, and I need to borrow a truck to get all the lumber, so that project's kind of on hold. If I had it all here, I could probably work on it, but
yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah, it certainly seems like, one of the things I keep hearing over and over again is, try to learn a new skill or whatever. And it's like, I have kids, man. Like
I
I
know,
can't,
yeah.
like, when am I going to find time for that?
Yeah.
That's good. Well, hey, David, I really appreciate your time. I think this is going to be super helpful. I'd love to continue to talk to you. I think you had mentioned that you are trying to put together something. Do you want to tell us what that's about?
Yeah, at some point, since especially we'll be doing this probably through April, at some point this month, I want to put together a Zoom chat on anxiety where basically anybody who wants to join can join. It's designed more for like kids and college students, just as a way just to deal with this right now. Talk about, how to find God in it, talk about ways to cope with it and answer some questions and stuff like that. So at some point, I do hope to put that together here in April.
Yeah, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah.
So we will once David gets a time scheduled for that, we'll make sure to promote that, give you guys the information for it, and hopefully you guys can join and get some of your questions answered, as well as just hear what other people are doing during this time and how they're coping with their anxieties or stresses or depressions or whatever. But hey, David, thank you so much for coming. I really really appreciate it. This is definitely uncharted territory for a lot of us, but
Yeah.
you know having a multitude of people, especially mental health professionals, kind of talking through these things and being a voice for the kids is something that is so just invaluable. And so I really appreciate your time here this morning. And
Yeah. Happy to help.
yeah, I just wanted to say Pittsburgh's better than Cleveland.
You might have more titles, but no.
I
No.
actually I actually watched what's that ESPN 30 for 30 Believe Land.
Oh gosh,
Did
yeah.
you ever
We
see
don't.
it?
No, but I know what they probably said. So
No,
yeah,
they're like residents of Cleveland that talk about like how Cleveland like Cleveland. I can't remember what it was. Like the 40s or the 50s was like it had more Fortune 500 companies in Cleveland than anywhere else. I didn't know all that stuff about Cleveland. Cleveland was like the heart of the Midwest, man.
it really was.
And
It
then
really
everything
was.
kind of fell
All the
apart.
factories closed. Yep.
Yeah, Cleveland
Same
is a
with
cool town.
Pittsburgh.
I do like Cleveland a lot, actually.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you being here.
Yep. Absolutely. Take care.